Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. So what I wanted to show you guys today is how I set up a cheap tank for my baby Crested Gecko. This whole setup cost me around $45. Now this obviously isn't the cheapest way you could go, but this looks very nice and it's relatively cheap. So that's why I did it this way. I'm going to be making another video eventually on how to set up a cheap tank. It won't look as good as this, but it will be super cheap. So let's get right into this. So starting off, the first thing that I like to do is the tank. The tank itself was $10 at the $1 per gallon sale at Petco. So that's $10 starting off. Obviously you're going to need a lid for a Crested Gecko. So that's going to be about another $10 unless you can find one cheaper. So you're already at your $20 limit or your $20 mark. Another thing every Crested Gecko needs is some fake plants. So you can pick these up. I picked these up. These are like, I think the small ficus plants or something. On Amazon for $4 each, and I have 2 of these, so you're at $28. So we're just going to go ahead, we're going to put these in here. I like to go one on either side like so. Something you should do every time you put plants into the tank is wet the suction cup a little bit, put a little water in there, and then once you get a little bit of water in there, you can see the little drop, just take your finger and rub it around a little bit. You don't want enough water so that it's just dripping off. You just want it a little bit wet. It's going to make it stick a lot better. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to put this guy right here. Make sure you press it good. And if you feel, it should be on there pretty tight. The water is going to help create a good seal on there. Oh, too much water. Just want it to be nice and moist. Let's see. So something like that should be good. And that's on there relatively tight. So that's what you're going to be doing for plants. If you're wondering what bedding I'm using, I'm just using simply paper towel, super cheap, and it's easy to clean, so that's why I love paper towel. You can use other beddings if you want, but to keep the price down a little bit, we're going to be using paper towel. So do the same thing on another plant, put a little bit too much on there, just get it enough so that it's nice and moist. Then we're just going to go ahead. We're going to set this one over here, I think. Looks about right. Right about here should be good. Make sure you press that down on there good enough. Feels snug. So now that we have our plants in there, that's about $4 plus the $20 for the tank and the lid. Another thing you're going to need, or probably need, depending on how many plants you have. If you want to do more plants, you can. But I personally like my Mopani wood too. Now, I got lucky and I picked this up at a rummage sale, this and the piece of cork bark I have, for $5. So, relatively speaking, that's pretty cheap because normally this piece of Mopani wood would be probably about $10. However, if you are looking for cheap Mopani wood and you're having a hard time finding any, one place you can go and look for it is on Dr. Foster & Smith's website. They have it for, I believe a small piece is $5. So that's really cheap compared to like what Petco would charge you. Petco would charge like $9 or $10 for the same size piece. So here we go with the cork bark too. We got a piece of wood falling off there. Just gonna lift up our plant here. Go like this. And then we're gonna rest this on that like so. Take our plant, we're just gonna pull that on top here. Like that. So as you guys can see, it's pretty full but not too full. I mean, he can crawl in the cork bark, he can go on this wood, he can hide in the plants, you know. So it's a relatively good setup for them. Another thing you're going to want to have or not have, depending on what you want to do, is a Pangea Ledge. Now this is another $10 and this is how it's going to become $45 because this is probably one of the more expensive things in here. You can just put this on. As you guys can see, it has suction cups to the back and then they'll come up there and eat it. This is optional. I mean, you can put your food on the ground if you want, but I personally would rather have one of these, but putting it on the ground isn't the end of the world. So doing the same thing, we're just going to put water on the back of these suction cups here. So a little bit there, a little bit there. Just going to rub it around. This thing's a little bit dirty, has a lot of water spray on it just because of how much I've been misting. But same thing, want to make sure that you don't have too much water. I have a little bit too much on this one over here. Okay, do the same thing, just stick it. You're gonna feel it kind of compress, and once you do that, you should be good. So taking a look at our tank here, We got our stick, cork bark, Pangea Ledge, plant, and we're gonna put our lid on there. So this whole setup's around $45-ish, give or take, depending on how cheap you can find certain things in here. But I'd say this is under 50 for sure. Just make sure you're looking around for the best deals, and I'm sure you guys can find a good setup like this. So I'm gonna make another video if you guys wanna see one on how to set up a super cheap tank. That'll probably be under $40 or $30, but that's gonna be super cheap. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video on how to set up a cheap baby Crested Gecko tank. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video. It'd be very much appreciated, and I will see you guys in the next video.